Um, Imagine you sign up for a weekend defensive driving course, right? Because, you just want to be a bit safer on your daily commute.
Sure, yeah. That makes sense.
But then when you actually show up, instead of teaching you how to, like, merge safely onto a crowded highway or how to brake in the rain, the instructor straps you into a literal Formula One race car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They hand you this fireproof helmet, and they tell you to practice running rival drivers off the track at, like, 200 miles an hour.
I mean, you'd be sitting there completely bewildered, right? Just looking around the track asking, how in the world is this supposed to help me safely drive my kids to school on a Tuesday morning?
Exactly. It's
Hmm.
it's a complete disconnect from your actual daily reality.
Right. It makes no sense.
So, welcome to today's deep dive. We've put this together specifically for you today because, well, we know you've been looking into the modern civilian firearms training industry.
Yeah, and we really want to help you cut through all that noise out there.
Definitely. So, we are basing our exploration today on this incredibly comprehensive August 2026 article by Herfel over at Valortec, and it's titled Special Operations versus Tradecraft Firearms Training.
It's a fantastic piece.
It really is. And our mission today is basically to separate all that action movie fantasy from the very gritty, very legal reality of civilian self-defense. We want to understand why applying military tactics to civilian life is, well, it's not just silly, but it's genuinely dangerous.
Yeah, but before we jump into the tactical weeds here, we do need to set a quick parameter for this deep dive.
Right, the impartiality note.
Exactly. We are going to impartially explore the tactical and the legal frameworks that are presented in this source material regarding firearms and self-defense.
Very important distinction.
Right. So we are not endorsing any political stances on gun ownership, Second Amendment, or specific state laws like Stand Your Ground.
Yeah, the focus is strictly on reporting the realities presented in the text and just, breaking down the logic behind them. Okay, let's unpack this. We really need to start by looking at what the source bluntly labels a disease in the current training industry.
A disease, that's a strong word, but honestly, it fits.
It does. It's this massive epidemic of marketing fantasy. I mean, we see this all over social media all the time.
Oh, constantly. The algorithms push it heavily.
Right. Instructors are out there wearing these heavy plate carriers, sporting the tactical beards.
The mandatory tactical beards.
Yeah, mandatory.
Yeah.
And they're using these highly dramatic, hyper-edited videos just to sell a basic weekend course.
And they are basically promising to teach ordinary civilians how to fight like elite military units.
Hmm.
You see these videos of like accountants and dentists placed into tactical formations.
Yeah, stacking up outside of doorways.
Right, stacking up, moving around vehicles as a coordinated unit. I mean, they are literally imitating assault force procedures.
Which is wild because those military procedures were designed for highly specific government missions.
Precisely. A military direct action unit doesn't just, show up to a random doorway by accident.
Right, they've got backing.
Massive backing. They are supported by national intelligence agencies, dedicated communications teams with encrypted radios.
Combat medics staged nearby, right.
Exactly. Massive logistical supply chains, explicit legal authorities granted by the government, and a very rigid chain of command. A civilian in a grocery store parking lot has literally none of that.
And the terminology abuse is just, it's wild. You see these marketing buzzwords like special operations or case officer or, diplomatic security just slapped onto a 2-day pistol class.
It's pure marketing.
It is. Taking a weekend shooting class and calling it special operations is like taking a first aid CPR class and claiming you're ready to perform open heart surgery.
That's a perfect way to put it. It completely ignores the vast depth of the actual profession.
So true.
And what's fascinating here is how starkly that marketing contrasts with actual published government definitions. Like if you look at how the U.S. Special Operations Command, or USOCOM, publicly defines direct action.
They don't leave it vague, do they?
No, not at all. They define it as short-duration offensive actions using specialized military capabilities to seize, destroy, capture, or recover designated targets.
Seize and destroy. That is intense.
Right. That is military doctrine tied to national strategic objectives. It involves offensive momentum.
Which is the complete opposite of a civilian just trying to walk out of a grocery store with their groceries.
Exactly.
And the source points out the same distortion happens with intelligence terminology, too. Like, the CIA's Directorate of Operations focuses on collecting human intelligence.
Right. Case officers.
Yeah, case officers. They operate under deep cover, making highly reasoned decisions under extreme time constraints, often overseas, their profession is intelligence collection.
It is absolutely not about conducting civilian versions of military raids.
Not even close.
And even when you look at domestic or embassy security, like the State Department's Diplomatic Security Service, those DSS special agents undergo, 33 to 34 weeks of rigorous initial training?
Wow, 34 weeks.
Yeah. They are learning criminal investigation, federal law, ethics, recognizing explosive threats, surveillance detection.
It's a massive ecosystem of security protocols.
Exactly. You simply cannot compress a 34-week federal academy into a 2-day operator package sold through an Instagram ad.
You really can't. But
Mhm.
wait, is it actually illegal for American civilians to learn these military skills? Like, I always assumed that as long as you were on a private range somewhere, Americans could basically learn whatever tactics they wanted.
The source brings up some very sharp legal boundaries here. For instance, you have the State Anti-Paramilitary Training Act in Florida, which is Statute 790.29.
Okay, what does that say?
The law actually draws a very strict line based on intent and application. That Florida statute explicitly protects weapons training for lawful purposes.
Like, just go into the range for fun.
Right. If you are learning to shoot for recreation, competition, or protecting your home, you are perfectly fine.
Okay, makes sense.
However, the exact same statute criminalizes teaching or participating in that training if the instructor or the student intends for it to be used unlawfully in furtherance of a civil disorder.
Oh, wow. So it's the intent.
Exactly. The mechanical skill itself isn't illegal. The intended application of that skill as a paramilitary force is where the criminal line is crossed.
And it isn't just state law either, right? The article mentions federal ITAR rules the international traffic in arms regulation.
Yes, that's a huge one.
It points out that under 22 CFR section 120.32, the definition of a defense service actually includes furnishing certain military training to foreign nationals.
Which is a massive trap for these instructors.
Definitely. So an instructor advertising military-grade tactical programs who allows a foreign person into their weekend class could actually be violating federal export control laws.
Because the government treats that tactical knowledge as a controlled defense export.
Right. Which means instructors playing fast and loose with this military terminology might find themselves under scrutiny from federal agencies they really don't want to deal with.
Absolutely. But even assuming a civilian is learning these skills completely legally, strictly for personal defense, we have to examine why it is practically a terrible idea to use military tactics.
Yeah, let's get into that, the mission mismatch.
Right. This is the core mission mismatch. The objective of a soldier and the objective of a civilian are fundamentally incompatible.
Because the civilian mission is brutally simple, and it is entirely defensive. Like we said earlier, your concealed pistol isn't a junior-sized military contract. It's a fire extinguisher in your kitchen.
I love that analogy.
Right. You use a fire extinguisher to stop the immediate emergency so you can get your family out of the house.
You don't grab the fire extinguisher and start clearing the house room by room to become a full-time firefighter.
Exactly. The armed civilian's objective is just to avoid the problem when reasonably possible, protect innocent life lawfully, stop the moment the threat stops, and then, survive the ensuing legal and police investigation.
Notice what is conspicuously missing from that civilian objective.
Yeah.
Taking ground, pursuing attackers, or clearing structures.
Yeah, none of that is in there.
If we look at the analytical table in the article, the contrast in posture is just immense. The military operates overtly, wearing specialized gear to intimidate and dominate.
Or they operate clandestinely with literal government backing.
Right. But a civilian's primary posture must be blending in. You need to look like everyone else at the gas station.
Yeah, you do not want to advertise your capabilities because advertising makes you a primary target.
Exactly. And the contrast in support is, well, it's terrifying, honestly. A military team has overhead surveillance, maybe a dedicated medical evacuation helicopter on standby.
Yeah, if you're a civilian, your support is dialing 911, maybe having a tourniquet in your pocket, and just hoping the random bystander next to you knows how to use it.
Which is precisely why applying team-based assault tactics to civilian life is so dangerous. Assault tactics rely heavily on rehearsed communication.
Right, everyone knows their role.
Exactly. Every member of a military team has an assigned sector of fire. They know exactly who is covering the left, the right, and the rear.
But a civilian in a crisis is dealing with total, unscripted ambiguity. You are alone. You might literally be physically holding a child's hand.
And you are trying to figure out in a fraction of a second if the person running toward you is a legitimate criminal threat, a panicked victim fleeing the exact same danger, or an off-duty police officer responding to the noise.
Yeah, you don't get a mission briefing. You just get chaos. So if the military sledgehammer fails completely in civil society, we logically have to pivot to finding the right tool for the job.
And the article suggests adopting what it calls a tradecraft-informed mindset.
Now, tradecraft doesn't mean wearing a trench coat and carrying a fake passport, right?
Oh, no. In this context, tradecraft is a mindset of extreme situational awareness, discretion, and independent problem solving.
Okay, I like that.
It is about operating effectively within the normal patterns of society, and the article actually breaks this down into 5 core pillars that transfer directly to civilian defense.
Okay, let's go through them. The first pillar is that avoidance is not cowardice. Logically, I completely understand this. Like, if you see a conflict developing and you leave before it turns physical, you won.
That is the ultimate win.
But I do want to push back on the reality of this. In the moment, your adrenaline is pumping. Someone is screaming at you over a parking spot, maybe insulting you in front of your family.
It's hard.
It is incredibly difficult to swallow your pride and just walk away. Does the source address how you manage that ego?
It does, and it specifically addresses the cost of that ego. When you allow your pride to keep you in a dangerous verbal altercation, you are essentially handing over control of your life and your family's safety to the most unstable person in the room.
Oh, wow. That's a sobering way to look at it.
Right. You are letting a complete stranger dictate whether you go to prison or the hospital.
Yeah, that's not worth a parking spot.
Exactly. So training avoidance means recognizing that physiological dump of adrenaline and consciously choosing distance. The ultimate skill is managing distance so that a physical confrontation never even materializes.
Which leads right into the second pillar. Low profile beats tactical theater. The armed citizen really benefits from looking perfectly ordinary.
Absolutely. Your clothing and your demeanor should just support normal daily life.
That author makes a brilliant point here, too. Nobody receives extra legal protection in a courtroom just because their pants had more pockets.
Laughing. Yeah, the cargo pants defense doesn't hold up.
Right. If your defensive system only functions when you are dressed for a SWAT raid, it is entirely useless for your Tuesday commute.
That's spot on. And the third pillar builds on that need for adaptability. It focuses on independent problem solving rather than, complex rehearsed choreography.
Because you're alone.
Right. Team drills on a flat range might build coordination, but civilian scenarios require you to think entirely on your own. You have to constantly evaluate, is the threat imminent? Is escape available? Where is my family?
The source has this great quote for that. The decision is the skill. The trigger press only documents the decision.
I love that quote.
It's profound. The mechanical action is secondary. The trigger press is just the physical manifestation of the cognitive process you just went through.
Exactly. But evaluating that environment brings us to a massive variable, which is the fourth pillar. It emphasizes that the environment is full of innocent people.
So how exactly does the geometry of, say, a crowded Florida parking lot change the equation compared to a military target area?
Oh, it completely upends the equation. In a military target area, the rules of engagement are defined by a specific known operational context.
Right.
But in a civilian parking lot at dusk, you have an uncontrolled 360-degree environment of pure chaos. You have moving bystanders walking to their cars who have literally no idea what is happening.
And you have reflective glass surfaces, mirrors on vehicles that distort your vision and throw off light.
Terrible overhead lighting casting deep shadows everywhere, narrow aisles that completely restrict your movement.
And honestly, the most terrifying part of that geometry is that responding police officers are hurtling into that exact same chaos.
Yeah.
And they do not know who the good guy is. They just see people with guns.
That is the reality. You own every single round you fire in that parking lot. You are entirely responsible for where every bullet stops.
And legally, that's huge.
It is. But more significantly, you own the decision that caused the firearm to be introduced into the problem in the first place. You are accountable for the entire sequence of events.
Which is why the fifth pillar is so critical. Medical and communication skills are mandatory. Surviving the physical encounter is only step one.
Right. The immediate aftermath is a brand new emergency.
Exactly. You have to know how to communicate clearly with 911 dispatchers. You have to know how to secure your weapon and identify yourself clearly so you don't get shot by arriving police officers.
And you have to know how to render medical aid. The source points out that even the Department of Justice's federal use of force framework emphasizes de-escalation and an affirmative duty to render medical aid.
Which is interesting because those specific DOJ policies govern federal law enforcement, not private citizens.
True, but they illustrate a crucial standard. Professional training is never just about pulling a trigger. It is a comprehensive survival system that includes preserving life once the immediate threat has actually ceased.
And that comprehensive system is put to the ultimate test long after the police tape is taken down. I mean, it happens in the courtroom. We have to talk about the unforgiving judge, the legal reality, and this dangerous illusion of immunity that some of these tactical courses sell to their students.
Yeah, the transition from tactical theory to the cold, hard letter of the law is really where the action movie fantasy shatters.
It really does.
Because Florida law, for instance, does not care about your tactical aesthetic. The prosecutor does not care if your instructor was a famous internet personality or if you have a cool completion patch on your jacket.
No, they definitely don't.
The legal system only cares about the objective facts of the incident under the statute.
So let's ground this in reality. Under Florida Statute 776.012, the use of non-deadly force is tied to a reasonable belief that it's necessary to defend against imminent unlawful force.
Okay, yes.
But deadly force requires a reasonable belief that it is absolutely necessary to prevent imminent death, great bodily harm, or a forcible felony. It's a very, very high bar.
It is. And we also need to closely examine stand your ground laws here, which are so heavily misunderstood by both the public and some training instructors.
Completely misunderstood.
The statute provides that there is no duty to retreat if you are not engaged in criminal activity and have a right to be where you are. But, and this is key, no duty to retreat is a legal doctrine.
It was not a personality disorder.
Exactly. It does not mandate that you stand there and fight, and it absolutely does not grant you a duty to advance, pursue a fleeing attacker, or, clear a building.
You aren't deputized as a one-man assault team just because the law says you don't legally have to run away.
Right. And furthermore, there is Florida Statute 776.041, which severely limits your justification for self-defense if you provoke the threat.
Provocation. This is where ego-driven training destroys you in court.
Absolutely. If a prosecutor can show a jury that you trained specifically to be aggressive, that you escalated the verbal argument, or that your behavior provoked the confrontation in any way, your self-defense claim might be completely invalidated.
Wait, what about immunity? Florida Statute 776.032 provides immunity from criminal prosecution and civil action, right?
It does, but that immunity only applies if the force was genuinely legally justified under those strict statutes we just talked about.
So it's not a magic shield.
Not at all. Law enforcement is still going to investigate you thoroughly. They're going to collect camera footage and interview witnesses to determine if your actions actually met the statutory requirements.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second here. Let's say a student goes to trial, and the prosecutor is trying to paint them as reckless.
Okay.
Doesn't the defense attorney just hold up the student certificate from an advanced tactical special operator weekend course to prove to a jury that they are highly trained, responsible, and therefore their actions were justified?
Oh, man, that certificate might actually do the exact opposite.
Really? How so?
A prosecutor could use that same certificate to argue that you thought you were a vigilante or some paramilitary operator. A piece of paper is not immunity. A marketing slogan is not immunity.
Wow. Yeah, I can see a prosecutor having a field day with that.
They absolutely would. The legal system evaluates the specific facts of the event. Was the threat imminent? Was your response proportional? Was it necessary?
So a resume full of aggressive team assault tactical courses won't save you if your cognitive judgment in that chaotic parking lot was legally flawed.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? If flawless judgment is the one thing that keeps you alive and keeps you out of prison, how do you actually train that judgment?
Well, clearly, standing on a sunny square range, shooting paper targets without a care in the world, isn't going to prepare you for the cognitive load of a real emergency.
No, definitely not.
Mechanical marksmanship on a flat range is a necessary baseline, sure, but it completely fails to prepare the brain for the massive cognitive load of a life-or-death crisis.
So what's the alternative?
To train judgment, we have to look at the science of pressure testing. The article cites a really fascinating peer-reviewed study from Vrije University, Amsterdam, involving police officers.
Oh, I remember reading that part. How exactly do they run that study? Because it's one thing to say they induced anxiety, but how do you scientifically measure that in a training environment?
So they took 27 police officers and divided them up. They had one group train under conditions of induced anxiety.
What does it look like?
It typically involves introducing unpredictable, ambiguous role players, high-stakes decision-making, and sensory stressors that, elevate the heart rate and force the brain into a state of alarm.
Okay, so real pressure.
Yes. And what they found was that the officers who trained under this heavy cognitive load maintained their shooting accuracy significantly better during later high-stress evaluation tests compared to a control group that trained without anxiety.
And the researchers noted this was because the anxiety training improved their attention to task-relevant information, right?
Exactly. When adrenaline hits, humans naturally experience tunnel vision and auditory exclusion.
Yeah, your brain just sort of shuts down extra inputs.
Right. But by training under pressure, these officers learned how to force their brains to filter out the chaos and focus strictly on the visual information that actually mattered for solving the problem,
And remarkably, they retained those cognitive benefits for up to 4 months.
which is huge for training retention. But we do have to clearly distinguish between good stress testing and bad stress testing in the training industry.
Okay, what's the difference?
Good stress is progressive and measurable. It involves uncertain intent, meaning an instructor sets up a scenario where, say, an actor approaches you in a dim room asking for directions with their hands hidden.
So you don't know if they're a threat yet.
Right. You have to process their dialogue, their body language, and the environment simultaneously. It includes no-shoot options, where the correct answer is to de-escalate and leave.
Whereas bad stress testing is just military cosplay.
Oh, completely.
It's an instructor randomly screaming at you in a mock boot camp environment, making you do push-ups to raise your heart rate, and then having you shoot a piece of cardboard. That isn't cognitive training. It's just physical exhaustion.
Exactly. So if you are looking to validate a training course before handing over your money, what should you demand?
The article gives a great checklist for this. First, what exact problem is the course designed to solve? If the answer is just vague, theatrical nonsense based on how cool the instructor's background is, walk away.
You must also ask if the curriculum teaches the law of force or if it just teaches gun handling.
Very important.
Do they train and evaluate no-shoot decisions?
Yeah.
If every single scenario in the class ends with you pulling the trigger, you aren't learning legal judgment, you are learning conditioned aggression.
Are the scenarios built around actual civilian environments, like parking lots, gas stations, houses of worship, grocery stores?
Right, the places you actually go.
And critically, does the instructor teach their own limitations? Performers sell absolute certainty. Professionals teach limitations and the realities of human error.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the takeaway isn't that civilians can't learn anything from special operations.
No, not at all.
There are incredible universal fundamentals to borrow from elite units, insisting on high standards, strict safety protocols, maintaining physical conditioning, communicating clearly under stress.
And understanding how to effectively work from cover.
Exactly.
But the underlying principle is that the application of those fundamentals has to match the civilian context. The source sums this up perfectly. Context removed is not expertise transferred.
That's the golden rule right there.
You cannot take a team-based assault tactic, strip away the intelligence network, the legal authority, and the medical evacuation helicopters, and then sell that empty shell to a civilian as advanced self-defense.
The ultimate goal of civilian training is to become much harder to surprise, vastly faster at recognizing danger, and incredibly disciplined about avoiding conflict altogether.
Yeah.
It is about building a legally defensible system of making precise decisions under immense pressure, not imitating a government direct action unit.
So if you carry a tool for emergencies in civil society, you owe it to yourself, to your family, and to your community to prepare for the life you actually live, not the action movie fantasy you see online.
The true advanced skill is the intelligence to avoid the fight entirely.
And the rigorous discipline to prevail lawfully when avoidance is truly impossible.
It is entirely about respecting the reality of the civilian environment and understanding the immense legal and moral accountability that comes with it.
And that brings us back to where we started. If avoidance is not cowardice, I want you to leave with this final thought to mull over. Almost every square inch of modern public spaces is covered by security cameras, ATMs, or a dozen bystanders holding smartphones.
Oh, you're always on camera.
Always. So think about your pre-conflict phase. Your body language, the route you actively choose to walk away, your visible, recorded attempts to verbally de-escalate a situation.
All of that is being recorded.
All of those actions might just become the most critical, life-saving evidence played for a jury in your trial, long before a trigger is ever pulled. Are you training for that?